Hey guys, it's me Tilly, and today I'm here with the first episode of Tillis Tuesday Talkshow. This is a new format I'm running on my Twitch, where I am inviting 2 or 3 people to join me on voice comms, and we are discussing the latest update. With this being said, since we only get an update every 4 to 5 weeks, this new format is also only gonna happen every 4 to 5 weeks. If you want to be part of the next one, do make sure to check out my Discord down below in the description, because I will announce the topic and the way you sign up basically for the next one. I would gladly see you there. With that being said, today's talk show is gonna feature Idrialoflight and Lunar, aka Cheesy. Do keep in mind, please, that everything we are saying is our point of view and our opinion, right? This is a trigger disclaimer, right? We don't mean to be super 100% serious when we say, I think this class is a bit overtuned, and by no means does it mean Nexon will actually do something about it, right? This is just a fun talk that I want to do from time to time to get a better understanding of what the community thinks about certain things and just have some fun interaction with you guys. I hope you will enjoy it, and enjoy. We can actually just start now. If you guys want to introduce yourself in the order that you joined the Discord.
I'm Lunar, I guess.
Yeah.
Lunar or Cheese in Discord. And then I'm Cheesy on EU. And then Mary Jane and a bunch of other Mary characters on NA. So there you go.
Cool.
Okay, you're on both servers.
Yeah.
But you're originally from NA?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I originally came over to EU as a joke because I was messing with the control.
Yeah, just like last, but how much are you actually playing on EU? I'm wondering.
A decent amount. I got my Miri to level, she's level 100. I think
Oh.
she's at Brilliant Lube, but I was like slacking on her because I was really just doing it for the attendance event. But now I'm doing Lether, and I think I'm actually gonna like play.
That's
Lether on
crazy.
EU.
Like, I thought about playing on NA, but I couldn't get myself to play for more than just leveling her. But yeah, would you like to introduce yourself as well, Idril?
Depends how much you guys want to know. Well, I'm from EU as well, like you, Tila. Yeah, on Discord I'm presented as Kujin, which is my gamer name. But in game, I'm indeed, like someone said in the chat, I'm Idrial. And well, I'm the guild master from Black Tornado. And yeah, I think that's the basic that you need to know.
Cool. Just to let everybody know again the classes that you play, both of you mainly.
Well, that is easy. I mainly play easy. That is, I changed it in season 2. Well, season 1 was mainly Eevee as well, from land to Eevee. Season 2 was 6 different characters, but from season 3 on, when you want to jump in the new season, you have to pick a character first you want to start with, and well, I chose to play with Eevee, and I'm still sticking to it. So
Cool. Long time player.
Yeah, I mainly play Miri, Aira, and Lethor. Like I usually play all 3 of them.
Nice.
I like originally started when I like first started the game. I made an Eevee, and then I came back. I think like a little bit before Grimden came out, and I had like a bunch of characters that were all leveled up, and I just had to pick one. And I was like, all right, this is gonna be the one I work on. So I started with Miri, and then I played Aira since she came out until Lether came out, and then I've just been playing Lether mostly since she came out now.
Okay, cool. Wait, I actually need the list real fast. Or I could go for a completionist. Hey, I'm Tilly, I play Risha. Good. For the first topic, you guys are prepared, right? You know what's coming. Chat doesn't know, but I'll read it out real fast. I want to first talk about your guys' thoughts on the latest update. And that basically includes everything that we got. From events to all of the quality of life updates to the character balancing. Just let me know your basic thoughts. Are they positive? Are they negative? And guess we'll start with Idril this time.
Oh, with everything just in a row? No, that's gonna be too much.
Yeah, you don't have to go into specifics yet. Just like an
Okay.
overall feeling. Do you like it? Do you not
But
like it?
because then you need another hour, man.
Yeah.
Um,
Just like the quickest overall thoughts that you can have.
well, just the basic from the balance adjustment.
The entire update, like from events to everything there was. Do you like it, or do you think there are something missing?
Well, if I cannot go fully into detail about the events, when there are new events, I always check them out, but I'm not always like hyped. The one that I was most hyped about was, of course, the when I came online did the Gremlin race. I was like, yeah, we got one again, because then you already know you're gonna get free stuff, and well, that's always a nice thing, right? And that was something I was like, oh, surprise! Like, already hyped about it. I will start the game first, and then I will check on the updates. So that was the first thing that I really noticed. And well, then my other thing is the RM treasure chest. I think that will be for my second, which kind of event I like. But but if you want to talk about my opinion about those gathering dungeons stuff, well, people for fashion maybe like it, but and the bingo stuff.
You're not the biggest fan?
You're not a bigger fan of those kind of events, no.
So basically the two that stood out are treasure chest and gremlin race.
Yeah, I like it. Well, of course, the Redeemer events. I was called God of Might or so.
Yeah, that's gonna start next week.
Because I'm a huge fan of playing Redeemers.
Yeah.
So that event is just perfectly made for me. So yeah.
So capturing your overall thoughts, I guess they are pretty positive and just very few negatives.
Well, not really caring about them. Not negative, not like they're bad or anything. Sometimes there are events that I really don't like at all.
But not this time.
But this time is no event that I was like, man, no, not this time.
Okay, cool.
That's fine.
Thank you for your opinion. What about you, Cheesy? Is Cheesy fine? Lunar, what do you prefer?
Fine.
Cheesy.
Okay.
Overall, I mean, I like the whole patch overall. Everything. I mean, some of the events are kind of like, like no, I don't think any of them are bad. Some of them are like underwhelming, like they're not really bad or good. It's just kind of like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I really did like the updates. Like when we talk about the updates, like I really like those. There's some good stuff in there.
Anything in particular that wowed you? Sorry.
That what? Oh, that jumped out. I don't know. The Gathering Dungeon, I was actually waiting for a while because I like have a bunch of characters that I need to level their Gathering on. So I was like, all right, cool. This is a nice, easy way to level my Gathering. Because I usually do like when I'm working, since I work from home, like I'll do I'll farm like all the boring stuff like while I'm working. So it's just like, okay, it's a good way to kill time. So it's like, all right, Gathering Dungeon.
Yeah.
Same thing with like the bingo, like all the raids that you do, or like battles that you do for the bingo, or like Season 2 X-Rays, Bathed in Red, like all that type of farming stuff. So it's just like, all right, cool. I can just use this to kill time and get rewarded for it.
Okay. So again, for you, I also get the feeling that your vibes are overall positive. Just very, very few negative things you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I guess I can again give my opinion. I kind of feel the same as you guys. There's just nothing where I immediately thought that why or that is bad. There's a bunch of things where I went like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, for example, I like the treasure chest event because my biggest problem with the game is the reward system and how you really rarely get rewarded for playing the game. And events like this specifically, where you get guaranteed value for playing, is what I think are almost necessary for you to keep playing the game, for you to not get demotivated too much. And that's basically the single event that stood out to me the most, because right now it's the only event running like this where you get rewarded for playing. All of the others are like attendance event and login events, while they're pretty cool and the rewards are good. Sorry, but
you talking about the Aurum chest?
Yeah. That's the one that I'm talking about right now, basically. I guess overall, I agree with you. There's a few good things to point out, while there's very, very few things to actually critique this time around. And yeah, I guess overall, it was a good one. But yeah, sorry.
The
Anything?
events, well, always when you want to come in game and then you notice some events pop up, then you're gonna check which one did you get. And this time it was less overwhelming, indeed. Like sometimes
True.
you got so many events that you kind of lost track, and I even forget to spend some or do some. And now there aren't that many, so it was quite easy to. Also because some are quite familiar, like the Gathering Dungeon and with the Gremlin event. We all had those kind of events before, so it was less. It was less overwhelming for me.
Yeah.
Well, if you're maybe new to the game, then it might be more overwhelming. I can understand that from some point, but
Yeah, no, that's fair, I guess. Yeah, I never thought about it like this because there's a bunch of things as a progress players that you just lose track of, and it's things like this where how overwhelming things can be, how not clear some things in the game can be. Where for us it's second nature, we don't think twice about it, but especially when I was doing like this beginner series on YouTube, there was so many things that I didn't explain because I thought they're obvious to players when it's actually not. And I think that's basically what you try to say, where it's just so much where sometimes. But then again, when I first saw the events, I was like, those are too few rewards. But then again, it was before they added the Gremlin event. I think if they added the Gremlin event like a week earlier, I think the patch would have been better. I don't complain about the Gremlin event now, because obviously it's a thing, but yeah. Anyway.
I feel like they've been staggering the events a lot more.
That is
like
very
they do
true.
Like Leather's release too. Like they had like some that started beforehand and then like some that started with a release.
Yeah.
Like they just been staggering them a lot more, which is kind of nice because then you can work on one and then get ready for the other one.
Yeah, but here's what was awkward to me is last week basically they started 3 events right away, and they announced 2 more events to start in 2 weeks. So basically, at the time of us recording right now, we are 1 week into the update, so the next 2 events start in 1 week. But then just yesterday we got an unannounced event. Sometimes it feels a bit too random. Sometimes they announce event 2 weeks in advance, and sometimes they just randomly drop them within the time frame of an event or of an update, which something just feels off. Like, do you want to announce them before? Do you just randomly drop them whenever you feel like? Yeah. I don't know. I sometimes get the feeling they don't really know themselves. But yeah, if you guys don't have anything left to say about the overall update, I would move on to today's main topic, which are the balance updates.
Ooh, interesting.
I'll say one thing that I really liked about the balance update, or not balance update, but like the changes.
Go for it.
That was that I didn't notice at first, like when I was reading it, but I didn't notice until I started playing, was special Crom. They reduced the duration of that last phase. I was like, thank God. Because I used to just skip doing that battle because I hated doing that last phase. Oh my God.
That is very true. It made it from like, I really dislike this phase to, it's alright, I can bear it.
I can stay alive for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will be fine. I can manage.
That is fine, yeah. Okay, would you like to just continue, Cheesy, to talk about your overall thoughts on the balance update? This time we move on to today's topic.
I wanted to say something fast, like some extension. What I had is with the laboratory with Marjak. When it's still weird for me when he with the red attack. Used to be doing an attack when you get a wave, and when the wave comes, you know that the red attack will follow up. But now the wave doesn't come. You got reduced and less attacks. And now when it still moves, and then I still ember on the moment when the wave should be coming, but it doesn't come. And then
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I still got it sometimes.
It's a bit.
You need to get used to it. Yeah.
They tried to make it easier. However, they made it just more confusing for long-time players.
Yes, exactly. It's not a bad thing. I will get used to it, but it's still something. Only with that specific raid, not with the others. There are some others which got removed some attacks. But just still with Marjak is the only thing that which is quite funny actually.
Yeah, that's true.
I kind of like it that
In
I
an attempt to make it
only with
easier.
that, that I'm still pressing Ember, but I'm
Yeah.
like, there is no wave coming.
That's true. That's very true.
I like it.
But yeah, off to the balance update. Cheesy.
Yes.
This
Your
is
general
just like
thoughts,
the-
just overall. Again, we will
Okay.
dive into more detail.
So
in
this is
just a
just like the
second.
balance portion of the update. All right.
Mhm.
Yeah, overall I liked it. I mean, I got some Miri buffs, which were like, they're okay. There's some like decent buffs in there, and then Lether was actually really nice quality of life stuff.
Yeah,
And
you want
then,
to talk about both of your classes real fast, like both Miri and Leafer?
yeah, the Miri buffs, that was pretty nice. Like starting with Hydra is actually really nice because I've had so many times where I'll like try to do RARs. Like if I do them like early in the morning, sometimes there's like a couple Hammer Fionas that play, and they just like constantly flinch the boss while I'm trying to get a parry, so I just can't get Hydra.
Yep.
It's like, oh, okay, well I get like 20% less damage because I can't get a parry in, so that
Yeah.
kind of sucks. And then being able to dodge is okay. I mean, I feel like most people who've played Mirror for a long time, like you're used to not dodging anyway, but it does make it so like in some situations you can actually like dodge without having the tab, which is kind of nice, and like still keep your Hydra going, so that's good.
Cool.
And then Lether, like being able to cancel your SP moves and block, actually so nice because you can just like because some of them have like iframes and like you can use them, but you can also just like do the damage and then cancel the iframes to get a block in to do more damage quicker, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that was one of my main concerns when I played Lether, where after skills like the lightning fall, you were just stuck in place for like what felt an eternity, and you were there and being like, this is fine, I'll just not move for 3 seconds. And you were pretending the enemy to be like some sort of T-Rex. Oh, I said the word some sort of T-Rex where if you don't move, they will not see you, right? And now you can actually just cancel out of it, right, with your block, I think. That's gonna be really good, yeah.
And being able to use left click to trigger her, was it Diamond? Or not Diamond, or Tiger Strike, the counter. That's actually really nice because it's like you don't have to right click and then left click. You can just do left click.
Yeah, if
Makes
you want
it
to
easier
combo
to
for
maintain
those
your
stamina regains, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then my Aera got nerfed, so that kind of sucked.
Is it really a nerf though? Here's my problem.
I mean,
whenever Aera is getting adjusted, all of the Aera player base is crying about how big of a nerf it was. When for me as a non-Aera player, they're just still so obnoxious.
Okay, look, it's a nerf in the terms of like she's still like really strong. Like I'm not saying she's not like really strong, but it's just in the nerf for the terms that like she did get her damage decreased, like because it's like Warp Blast is the one you mainly use like for positioning. I think it's tab LR, so you're mainly using that one for positioning, and it's still the weakest, I think. So it's kind of like like that's not really anything. The entropic rounds, it's really only going to make a difference in like solos and stuff like that, and like the same thing with like inverse shot, like getting stamina back, like really only does stuff in like longer battles. So I mean, like they're like decent compensation buffs, but it does kind of suck having like the main way that I play the character get.
Does the entropic round buff, which is just a cooldown reduction of 5 seconds from 60 to 55, right? Does that somehow affect your rotation with your werewolf paw? Like, is it easier to combine them?
Not really. I mean, it feels about the same. Like, because I usually just pop them both in the beginning anyway, and then it's usually about the same.
And then your raids don't last long enough for a second round.
Well, for like one more, for like I think probably like 3 entropic rounds, 2 or 3. I'll get in like 1 regular raid, so I mean it doesn't really make much of a difference.
Okay, I see. Okay. Yeah, you wanna go on with your general thoughts? Sorry, we can.
But yeah, overall it was kind of I was all right with the balance patch. Getting rid of stims kind of sucked. I mean, I know why they did it, but I abused them on my Miri.
Is that something that affected your Miri? I think Miri is one of the.
Them on my Miri.
The focus stem,
it was nice
right?
to have a focus stem, yeah.
How much of a nerf you think is that? And do you think the compensation buffs are enough to make her as powerful as before?
Not Not really, because like the like it didn't really. She lost damage because of the what you call it, the stims being gone.
Yep.
So I mean, the compensation buff didn't really add to her damage. It just gave her convenience. So it's kind of like you just lose damage from that. But it is nice that in dragon form you get perfect Hydra. So it's like you don't have to worry about, because now you lose Hydra if you get hit 3 times, like when you're in normal mode. But when you're in dragon form, you just don't even have to think about it. So that's kind of nice.
Perfect Hydra basically means you can't lose the status effect.
Yep.
That's cool. Oh. That's new, right? Perfect Hydra. That hasn't been a thing. Okay, cool. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Otherwise, I'd throw Idril into the room.
No, that's about it. For like my characters, yeah.
Okay, cool. Then Idril, fire away your general thoughts about the...
EVs, let's go! Yeah, well, about the Miri thing, like you said, I don't play all characters, but for Miri I can understand which with the balance patch, which things you might like and which could be quite annoying. But yeah, I can tell more about EV, of course.
Yeah, sure, just go for it.
Well, I've started just General. Generally, with the balance patch, I've seen and when I first read it, I always skip and then skip right through Evie. Like, I want to know first what they did to her, and start slowly reading the other characters. And well, the first thing that I noticed is that, well, not all characters were taken to it. Like, I am maybe that's more for later, but for some characters, I kind of agree that they don't need any improvements or degrees or anything. But yeah, for me, mainly it was very, very important that at least Evie would get some changes. Obviously.
There were like not big changes, right? There were only mainly just flat damage increases.
At some point it's huge, but on the other side, well, my point of view, it's that it is not that much as it should be. Like there are a lot of Eevee players, right? I think that is the most, or maybe one of the most played characters. And
most likely,
stuff was in the past very strong, and slowly through patches, it became less strong. So we were kind of waiting for something like this. Like, it's really needed, you know, with stuff. Basically, every skill that we have get an increase in damage, and that's what we needed, right, to keep up with other characters, like with the total damage we do.
Would you say that before in the balance update, Staff was the worst weapon compared to Scythe?
We were really behind, clearly. Okay, there are so many different, like some players just playing casual, and they might notice as well. But those balance patches, they apply more on those who are try-harding. Like, some people that just spend everything on getting the highest stats, and then they still get out damage, but that depends on how much how skilled they really are. But some who are like more skilled, like those try-hardings, they really try to compete with others, you know.
I guess these balance updates in general are aimed to, or aimed for players that really care about min-maxing and about how balanced the game is.
These are more for people who are trying, who really want to try to get out the max. Like for casual players, there are some changes are just slightly increased or decreased, and they probably won't notice the difference.
I was kind of disappointed. I was kind of disappointed Scythe got a nerf bat.
Do you think it's really, like, I read through the nerf, it's just a slight damage decrease to its enhanced...
Yeah.
What was it again? Sorry.
Enhanced drain. That's like all her marks, basically, like when you enhance them. I think
it's like drain the skull one, the third.
I think it's like all of them, like the whole thing. Like all,
are there any
all of her
in
marks
chat, by the way,
enhanced.
right now? What is the drain one?
That's my understanding of it.
I thought drain was like the second one, like one of the early ones that almost is like no damage anyway compared to I thought it to be like a very slight adjustment, because before the patch, basically Scythe was arguably the stronger weapon compared to Staff.
Yeah.
Would you say, as a Staff player now, that you feel on par with Scythe? Do you think the class itself is balanced in itself?
Yes.
You think so? So basically, they technically achieved their.
Yeah, kijk, look, with Ira, for example, they were one of the strongest, like one of the biggest damage dealers, you know. And with, if they apply some balance changes on Ira, Sylas, that was one of the biggest changes in my opinion. And Luthor, those people, because they were on top on damage, and when they get a balance patch, like I think they notice it more that they get like debuffed. Luthor got increased, which I do not agree with. That's the only thing that I don't agree with. But with Eevee, yes, if you compare to a side Eevee now, they're getting closer together. Like, I understand when side Eevee is reading it, and they were like, oh, Staff get every single skill of Staff getting buffed, and we got the skill that even got debuffed. You know, they got decreased, and I'm like, yeah, like side was much, well, not much. Yeah, they were quite stronger than Staff.
Okay, so, I wanna real short. Give me 1 second. I wanna actually include chat real fast. They help us out on the Scythe question, and apparently, a -3% on all enhanced marks. I have the update notes right here. It reads enhanced drains damage has been slightly decreased, but apparently it's a scuffed node, and people claim that all 4 marks have their damage decreased.
I think they refer to all of her marks as like enhanced drain, because like after you mark, you can press E to like enhance your mark.
The drain is the enhancement. I thought drain was like actually a smash combo. If that's the case, then it's actually more of a nerf than I expected.
It is, but it's also quite neat, because if every single attack that they do is each time stronger than compared to the spells.
I think Scythe has been one of those benefits.
Then it's understandable that they increase all of the Staff skills, and well, with Scythe is only one needed, because that's the enchant one. So yeah, I can understand it. And,
Scythe like just got made relevant again too. Like, I think it was last balance patch when they like added her new combos to like go into your drains and the extra smashes, so like, they just made her relevant again.
I think what most people also forget sometimes are the passive buffs / nerfs that character experience sometimes. And when I'm talking about passive buffs this time around, I want to mention the introduction of the dash enchant scroll, which I just think Scythe was one of the biggest benefits. Like, she benefits one like the most. The attack speed scaling for her is ridiculous, and on top of the rebalancing she experienced in the last rebalancing, I think she was just actually a bit overperforming.
Yeah, so those balance patch is really needed, but if you still, let's say, if there's if there's another Eevee but exact same stats as I have, but then a side, and people go try hard mode and then see who comes out on top, I think side will still be out on top. And that's because, like, for example, I don't have a dash in the trend scroll, and then I might, like you said, then I might have a chance if I micro well enough. Side is in that terms a bit easier, but like you said, with dash scroll they can come out on top easily. Yeah.
Okay. I want to again briefly talk about what chat said real fast, where somebody mentioned that they think it's bad to just nerf or buff the damage, and we need more changes to the gameplay. I think you're referring probably to something like Orisha, something like Zestus Karog, which really got not just changes to their numbers, but also improve the gameplay. And while I think this is true, I don't think that every character right now requires something like this. When I want to give my opinion real fast on the overall balance again, and I think that this time around, did like one of the best jobs ever when it comes to balancing, because they basically got all of the, in my opinion, weak classes and gave them actual decent buffs. Not just like irrelevant ones, which don't account to anything, but they really took a look. Like, it's basically like if they took a look at my worst 5 classes in the game and they just buffed them to be up to par with like the average. And yeah, there's not been a lot of nerfs. I think Scythe Eevee, which we covered, is one of the few ones. There's a nerf to Ira, apparently. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think there wasn't there one more?
Silas.
Yeah.
Silas, true. Okay, Silas was just...
They gave him a taste of being top tier, and then they were like, nah, we're gonna...
I feel so bad for my boy. He has literally not seen any love for like 2 years ever since I started playing the game. He gets a single buff, and they have to nerf him right after.
Immediately nerf him.
That's such a feels bad, man. But yeah, Spell Whip got a slight, like, people call it a nerf. It's actually a bug fix, but it doesn't really, like, it's whatever.
Yeah, like some changes, like some bug fixes or changes in skills might actually be an advantage for a certain character. So I would say that it would be an increase, and as a form of increase.
From what
Yes,
I've
I think it
heard
did.
from
We talk about
people
that
who play
in a second.
Karok, he needs a lot of bug fixes. Like
Which one?
that's
Sorry,
one
Karok?
thing that's really holding him back. Karok, I think both of them. I think mainly it's like, I think it's a lot with Cestus though. Like one person I play with who plays Cestus mostly, like his dodge is so buggy, like his bob and weave or whatever, because you have to like basically like perfect dodge from my understanding of it to like get the most out of it. And there's a lot of times where it just like doesn't register.
Okay.
Especially in like redeemers like Bridget, and then he has this bug. Like it's actually ridiculous. We were doing Hell Memes the other day, and when she does her charge moves, like her stab moves, where she does like she stabs you and like shocks you with the lightning, or the one where she like shoots the lightning out of her lance, she can like hit Karok anywhere on the map. It's actually absurd. Like there was one point where like my guildie, he was like behind Neem. And he was like running towards her, and she's like on the other side of the map. She does her stab, and his character like teleports onto the spear.
Nice.
It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in my life. I would have been so mad.
I can see that.
You need to clip it. It would be quite fun, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is fine. Okay, cool. I would like to move on to the next point, which is actually, I want to hear your guys' opinion on who you think is the biggest winner of the balance update. Out of all the classes that received a buff, who do you think needed it the most, or who do you think actually got the best one? Whoever wants to take it first, go for it.
Well, needed. That for me, it's obviously Eevee. It was really needed. But
Your own class, okay, just pointing it out, okay.
Everyone in the chat could agree that the one who comes on top is Luthor. So yeah, that's those are my picks. But
so
yeah.
Eevee and Luthor.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think, Cheesy?
Well, if Karok would have got bug fixes, I would say him because he actually got a lot. But though he really needs those, so I think that like really pulls it back. But I think Hammer Fiona, because I like used to never see any Hammer Fionas, so I feel like they actually made her
Sword Vela
a lot
needs
better.
it the most.
I'd like see a lot of Hammer Fionas that like had
not
gear,
like this.
but I'd like still be like out like, and they're good Hammer Fionas, and I'd still be out DPSing them with like less gear. So I feel like she probably needed some love because like Sword has been on top for like forever.
That is true.
So,
that is true.
Probably Hammer Fiona and maybe Delia. She got some like just straight damage increases too, which she kind of needed. I feel like she was kind of like, for what she is, like I feel like she needed some more damage.
Okay, so again, to sum it up, you think Hammer Fiona and Delia. So we got Eevee, Luthor, Hammer Fiona, and Delia. And I will actually agree on Delia being the biggest winner this time around, because I think she was not a terrible character before. She was obviously not like top 5. There's like way more ridiculous classes out there. But I think she was decent before. And getting such a big increase, that's the problem. It's not that she got an increase, she got a sizable one, 10% on everything. And another reason, I'm kind of cheating right here. Another reason for me thinking Dahlia is the biggest winner is the fact that she already got nerfed on the Korean server. So basically what they did this time around for us is they gave her around a 10% damage increase on literally everything that deals damage. And on the upcoming balance update, she will receive a nerf to basically, again, everything, so that overall her damage increase will not be 10%, but rather 5% from the original value. And I think this alone is like a really good example for why she's the biggest beneficiary. I think that's the word, right? Beneficiary. Nice. Of this current update. And alongside Dahlia, I think I also need to mention a second character, since both of you did. I think I have to go with my girl, actually, Arisha, where I'm not even kidding. If any of you like watch the streams or the videos, I think I've been spreading real bad vibes for my own class for a long time. And people asked me actually I think 2 or 3 weeks ago if they should play Sword Arisha, to which I actually said no, don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not worth the pain to deal like no damage and struggle through all of her things she has to struggle with. But with these slight adjustments, and I'm not even talking about the 10% on temple shift, which is cool, I guess. Just the quality of life changes are really huge to her gameplay and to the fun that you're experiencing playing the class. And I think it actually showcases something that I think Safi said earlier, where you don't need to change numbers around too much. If you sit down and think about what could make the class better or more fun to play, giving it some quality of life updates. And I think it's also something that requires them to think in more depth about what's wrong with the character, and also just work a bit harder. It's way more difficult fixing things like the animation cancel that is now a thing, instead of just like adjusting the slider. Oh, this skill now deals so much more damage, right? I like seeing them putting in the effort, actually.
Yeah, they did a great job with many characters, but still, like, okay, they changed our characters, you know. They are finally they worked on Eevee, on Yorusha, Miri, so we could be quite happy about it. But if you have to look at if they came on top, I would still, if you have to compare it to other characters right now, they compare like, that's why Len is not in it, or Sword Fiona, because they are overall already good, and they can, you can see them as indication, and they balance our characters towards them to even them out with them. But and if you have to compare, like, Silas is brought back down to it, but the Thor was already above, and now even more. So if you have to look at who will come on top, I would still.
I'm pretty sure she's got a nerf coming in the pipeline where they nerf her counter damage.
But
which I think is kind of dumb, to be honest. Like, you're punishing me for playing the class the way it's supposed to be played. Like, you should just like lower her numbers. I feel like that's a case where you can just lower her numbers, because it feels like more punishing.
We're talking about Letha, right?
Yeah.
Here's my problem with Letha in general. I think she's a balancing nightmare, because she just excels at all parts of the gameplay, where usually every character has one distinct weakness that you can point and be like, oh, it's really good in like counterattacking, but it really is not good in like sandbag DPS. For example, that would be a pretty good description of Sword Valor. And there's like the reverse, where you're a really good sandbag DPS class, like for example, I don't know, Bokai, I guess. But if you're being targeted a lot, like, your class is kind of useless. And that's the problem with Letha. I think no matter what's happening on the field, she has an answer to it, and she can dish out amazing damage without like really worrying about something. And that's,
she's like Great Sword Herc, except she has stamina.
Does she really though?
That's true. You can almost never run out of stamina with her. if you're paying
Yeah,
attention.
especially once you use your stamina steroids.
Talking
Yeah.
about stamina, like someone in the chat said, if you look at many adjustments, like a lot of damage increase or decrease. But the thing that I like in particular are those changes. For example, which is really a big deal for Delia, that she's already got a stack up with 3. With Miri, it's the same thing, like with the Dragonfire, and also with Chain Valley, with Cold Heart. Those are the changes. It's not damage, but they really needed to have a great. The start is so important that people don't notice. Like some EVs can be mad if they don't give us time enough to save up all 3 spells. You don't need to save up all 3 spells because in that time you can start earlier. Your entire team deal already more damage. Just 1 or 2 skills is enough. But if you have to, like, if that would be the change, like imagine if they apply the same thing on Eevee, but that we start when you enter a battle, we already start with 3 skills already saved. We can release them, and that is not
That'd be
going
pretty
to help it. It is important for those who got a gut statue, but it's not really. It doesn't really help our character as much as it changes for Delia, Miri, and Chain Valley. So that's why the only thing that you could change on Eevee is damage. So that's
that is
why.
true. Yeah, not every class is suitable for these type of changes. But I also think though, like my biggest complaint about these balance updates is they take too long to be put out. For example, let me give you the easiest example for why I think we should have more frequent updates. Look at Delia and Silas. Both of them received good buffs to a point where they know they were too much. In Korea, they nerfed both characters like 2 weeks right after because they were like, whoa, hold on, this was too much. But for us, it takes like we get a balance update like every 6 months, so we know, okay, this Delia is too strong. Why in the first place? Okay, hear me out. Why in the first place did we get the buffed Delia when Korea knows it was too strong? Why didn't we get the adjusted version right away? I wouldn't mind if we only got a character balancing every 6 months. If we got the up-to-date version on Korea. On Korea, they're doing balance updates actually like more frequently. But then for us, it takes like so long to get a patch which was actually just 2 weeks after. Can you not combine them into one? Like, why do we get OP Delia for like 6 months now? Why did we have OP Silas for so long?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's something they could really improve on, and I don't know. And they showcase in Korea that they are knowledgeable enough about the game to see when they overdid something. And I would like them to see, or I would like to see them be a bit more experimental. And by that I mean, they know which classes are overperforming and underperforming. Just change something about them and give it 2 weeks and see how it acts out. They could be more reactive to like the entire balancing all around when they're just very rarely caring about the actual balance, which I guess it's not a bad thing. I don't think Vindictus nowadays is such a competitive game that you have to have every character balance. There's no such thing as like you get more rewards for dealing damage unless you're doing Royal Army raids. And yeah, I guess it's not necessary. It just sometimes feels really bad because the game is basically a farming simulator. How much gear can you get until the gear that you have is being rendered obsolete, right? And when you spend a lot of time on your gear and you just get outdamaged by somebody with like half of your stats because the character balancing is off, I think that should tell you to act as a developer. More often than they're doing right now.
That's just for Korea, of course. I mean, they still do that thing, but it sounds weird indeed. Like we are like 6 months behind, and then you're like, when there's an adjustment coming, like, well, then send the up-to-date version. You know, I mean, I can understand it, but there are along with it a lot of stuff are coming along with the same patch, and we need it as well. But then I'm like, just cut out the part that we don't like the adjustment, just skip it out, and then. I understand, but I have honestly no idea. I think they just send a package to Europe and just like, here you have it, install it and fine.
Yeah.
It's not like they can cut out parts, and that's why we already know in advance that we have to wait 6 months for the actual.
Yeah, they're just like
judgment.
translate it and plug it in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, simple, but yeah.
Chat was
think
also
that's
mentioning
good.
something that I want to address real fast, and it's that Koreans are just better at video games than
True.
than we in the West. Which
Yeah, it's true. It's more a thing there, I can believe, especially with this sort of game.
I guess
Uh,
I don't know. I feel like it's
It's
more with
sport
competitive
there, I
games.
believe.
Like I
think
feel like this
Koreans
kind
or
of game
Asians
is
in
kind of like,
general are really proud of what they do in games, and they push it to the next limit, or to the limit.
But it's more,
Where I think the most relevant example to put right here is like something like Bokai, which is like dominating the West, when it's just like all right in Korea, which is like really interesting to me. But yeah, I would
It's
really,
because-
I don't know, but I think it's the same classes that dominate Korea. For example, if you take a look at Sword Valor, which, sorry for all Sword Valors in chat, I think your class is a bit too doo-doo. Like, how is that how is that allowed to be a thing in the game? If you take a look at literally any person that streams Vindictus as a Korean server user, that was not English, but sorry, they have a Sword Valor alt. If it's not their main, they have a Sword Valor alt, because it's just that strong. I feel like everybody's like, okay, my main character is not enough because there's fatigue, there's like other limitations, I can't play the game enough on one character, so I get an alt character. And for 99% of the Korean player base, Sword Valor is like the go-to.
yeah.
I don't know,
But
like,
I mean, be honest. If there's a new player coming, and he will like, we ask you which character do you recommend? Like, obviously, I'm not going to recommend Stuffy if you beside the bugs, and they are quite slow, like Delia.
true.
The slower characters I would say something easy, like Herc or like the first place that I would recommend people is Fort Fella. That's the first thing that I would say. Like, start with her.
Okay. Yeah, I guess she was one of the first. But-
Yeah, but that's how the Korean things. Well, I have to and I got for the for tea, and then you're like, okay, well, let's start over with Fella.
Yeah, I feel
Why
like
is
her,
there
it's
Sword
mainly
Valor-
her counter.
Wait.
It's like her counter is so busted because it's like the boss doesn't even have to be like attacking you. Like they just have to be attacking near you and you get your cross cut. Like that's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Like you obviously get the yellow damage. I think it's if you're facing them, you get the yellow damage when they're attacking you. But even if you're not facing them, it's like, all right, you still get the damage as long as they're attacking in your vicinity.
To cover up chat's question real fast, why is Sword Valor the go-to as an alt character for Korea? It's the same reason why Lether has become the second go-to for Korean players to have an alt as. Because they're just a tiny bit overloaded, in my opinion. They have so few weaknesses while dealing high damage on low gear. Or just being in general a bit over the top, in my opinion, when it comes to their balance. I think both of them excel a bit too much in what they do, and they can do a lot, right? So these two factors, being able to do a lot and being able to do a lot very good, that's what makes them such a good choice for an alt character. They don't need much gear to already be good. They are no Dahlia. They are no Scythe Eevee that require to have like 90 attack speed to enjoy.
Yeah.
Get them free gear and they already out damage like 5k AD, whatever, Lance, Karox and stuff like that. It's
That
crazy.
needs a little bit of love. I'm not gonna lie, they did
Yeah,
it
sorry.
dirty.
I mean, you can still discuss about, like, someone already comments that Fiona would still out damage Luthor in a solo. I mean, yeah, of course, it depends, but that depends on the boss as well.
Yeah, but also on gear. If you put both of them on free gear, you will have much more fun on Valor and Lether than on Sword Fiona. That's my opinion.
That's true.
She's a bit more attack speed reliant. Fiona,
I feel like
that
they're also flashier characters too, though. So you kind of got to take that into account.
I guess so. Okay, I think we're getting a bit sidetracked, which doesn't matter much, but I would like to go back to today's topics, which is one that's gonna be the most controversial one. I feel it. And chat, I don't know. You can jump into the discussion, I guess. I want to talk about your guys' opinion on the top 5 characters in the game right now. Whoever feels comfortable to receive chat's hate first, fire away.
Wait, so are these like top 5 like? Just
what
like
do you think is the strongest character?
Like, like the strongest characters?
Yeah, but when you mention your top 5, say why you think they are strong. Do you think they just deal the most damage in the game? Or do you think like their kit is just a bit overloaded?
Okay. Alright, so I guess I'll start.
Yeah.
I got Aira, Lether, Herc, Grimden, and then Bokai. Those are the ones I picked.
On Herc, you were just saying Herc. I assume you are talking about Greatsword.
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Okay.
You
so for him, it's basically like he's got good damage, and he's like, no stamina. With stamina, I don't need to worry about that. I can just constantly attack. So I feel like he's pretty good.
So is there any particular order, or is that just what you think are some that might need a little?
There's not really a particular order. I just think those are like 5 really good characters. I didn't really think of an order.
Okay, before we jump into any reasoning, can I get Idril's list of the top 5? Again, you don't have to have any specific order. If you do though, just
right. Yeah, because that was the only thing that I said to you in Discord that was like not really prepared. Because when I look at the balance changes, it was quite hard for me because I don't play all the characters, and I also haven't been playing. Like I didn't join any party where there was a Herc or a Karrick in it, so it was kind of hard for me to get the experience. What would actually be the difference, like before the patch and after? Well, one thing is obviously I mentioned it a couple of times that the Thor is the only thing that's just crazy. Ira still on top. Well, like the only thing that I want to know is I would have put Silas in it as well, but now it's a huge change, and I haven't played enough yet to actually be convinced. Like if he's really, he's not on top anymore. I think he's not on top anymore.
Okay.
But else he would have been in it. But
I think he would have been in mine too if it wasn't for the nerf.
Well, I would. It's weird, but in the top 5. I would say Fiona, Sword Fiona.
Okay.
Yeah, because and most raids she will do quite well. Well, like in terms of them, like I said, she's an indication, like with Len, and we got balance towards them, like being on the same line. But still, in the most raids, she can perform much better than the stuff Evie could. So even with Fiona with slightly lower gear, would still out damage me, even though with those damage increase for staff Evie, she still got just because depending on the race, but those raids there are too many raids that she has more advantage in than staff Evie, so she would still be on top. So I would place her in top 5 as well. Also one of those I would recommend for people to play. So the Thor, Ira, Fiona, and that was, well, who else would I put in it? It might be surprise for some people in the chat. I don't think you guys are surprised by it, but I would place Lan in it. There are not many. Len is quite hard. I mean, in my opinion, Lin and Len are the most hardest play characters. In my opinion, I find
the most difficult ones. Yeah.
But when you have a good Len, they are truly insane, and you can even no matter how much I try, I cannot out damage him. They are truly insane.
Which weapon are you talking about? Just to make it clear, spears or swords?
Both. Sword, I think, come out on top a little bit more. But yeah, both of them are performing really well, and it's really hard to out damage. And no matter if it's a normal rate or redeemer rate, but I would put Sword slightly on top. And the 5th one I would place is Arisha Whip. Even with the balance change, I don't think it's in my opinion, the changes for the whip is not enough. I still agree that whip is still a bit too strong.
The changes for the whip this time around, they were not aimed at her balance. They were literally just aimed to fix a bug that was apparently a thing. So
yeah, she's still still in top 5, definitely. Yep. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking about putting Whip Arisha up there, and the reason for it is she has been a good character, but she was, I think, the single biggest winner when the Calm and the Dash and Chance Scroll were introduced. Being able to have seemingly endless SP and get like another 20 attack speed on top of what she already has are just crazy buffs to her. That's literally everything that you need as a Whip Arisha. You need SP and you need as much attack speed as you can get. And she got plenty of both, which I see where you're coming from. However, she does not quite make my top 5. If I was to go to top 10, she would easily make it. However, I think there are more obnoxious characters in the game right now. And I'm gonna again talk about something that may not be as situational as the Whip, because I think Whip excels in some occasions and she has a hard time in others. The classes that I want to talk about are the classes that are just the jacks of all trades that can basically do it all. And for that, I'm gonna agree on Lether. She's the newest one. I guess it makes sense that they wanna give her some love so she has an easier time to fit in. For the same reason, I think Greatsword Herc. He's always been like my nemesis.
Breaks the game.
As somebody who basically has no stamina at all, I despise a class that just doesn't use stamina. That doesn't have to pay attention to the green bar below your HP. For all Greatsword Hercs, the green bar is stamina. And I really mean it as I say it. In a game that is balanced around classes using a resource to attack and dodge, I think it is game breaking to have a class for which that is not true. This is still something that is beyond me. And I get the idea of him being this berserker type of class where I can still fight even though I have no stamina. Okay, but make it a bit more punishing to actually use your health as a stamina, right? Like, I was talking about that earlier, which is Lether's problem right now, where she has too few weaknesses for how many strength she has. And I think it's the same thing with Greatsword Herc. He has this really almost OP, okay, almost scratch the almost. He has this OP mechanic of just not using stamina. But where's the downside? Okay, he takes damage, but he can heal it up instantly as well, right? Just remove Berserker and Chance Scroll resetting Transcendent Stick. Something like this. I really think for how game-breaking his mechanic is, they have never tried to adjust it at all. Ever since I started playing the game, there has only been, like, I think, a very minor change to Greatsword Herc, which I really cannot wrap my head around, and I think it's one of their biggest hiccups for why is this class a thing the way it is a thing right now. Because Greatsword Herc is so overtuned, we've seen bag to bag to bag to bag to bag buffs to Teed, which, by the way, for you Greatsword Hercs, that's the other weapon Herc has, right? He has 2 weapons, if you were unaware, right? They had to buff a class 6 times in a row, and it still is not on par with the first weapon. How does that even happen? How is your first weapon so strong that after 6 consecutive buffs, the second one is not on par? Can you realize finally that it's not Teed's problem? Maybe it's Greatsword, right?
Yeah, seeing a Teed Herc is like seeing a shiny Pokemon. You like never find those.
Yeah, it's true. I think
same with the Hammer Fiona as well. Like, I read the update and I'm like, I will just skip through it because you will never. I have only seen one Hammer Fiona, Miguel, which is not very active. Those changes you cannot compare it if it is good or not because you probably won't even see one. Or I can't say anything about it. No.
Okay, let me just move on real fast. Lethal was the first one, right? And Greatsword Herc,
Yeah.
both for the same reason. They're just too good at everything. They have almost no weaknesses. Gwyndon is the next one that I want to mention. And what the F? what is this class? Sorry, that's all I'm gonna say. the
His
fourth one,
mobility is just so good in like being able to stick to the boss. It's insane.
Well, they say that Gwyndon is also one of the top damage, but I've seen much Gwyndon, to be honest.
To be fair, you have to be like decent at Grimden to really get the most out of him. So he's kind of not like brain dead.
I guess, but
really...
we should expect people to play their class decently, right? And on a playing field where everybody is able to play their class to 90% of perfection, Grimden will outdamage you. And that's just something, again, where I don't hate it as much as like the Greatsword Herc thing, but Grimden is the first class actually that makes my list because his numbers are just too high. I think he kind of deserves like give him like the Dahlia treatment from like 10% down to 5, just like minor nerfs to some of his abilities, and I think I would be fine with the class.
Not only his damage, but he'll Kasana the boss and get you killed to pad his damage stats even more.
It's annoying for him to freeze the boss for like half a second to mess up your timings. I get that, but then again, you have Greatsword Herc doing the same thing with his deflect, kind of, right? There's multiple classes that interact with the boss where you as a counter attack class be like, I see it. Moving on, I think the fourth spot, I have to go with Sword Valor. She's just one of those classes again where I have like this love-hate relationship, and when I mean love-hate, I just hate her. It's just one of those classes that I again can't wrap my head around, where I think she also has like little to no. This is a highly subjective one. Chat, please do not get triggered. If you play Sword Valor, I obviously love you, but it's just the character that I really dislike for some reason. It's something about it. Maybe that it's a bit too easy to play for how much damage you can dish out. If you, I don't know. She's also situational, I get that. If you compare her like Niemheim performance to Baylor performance, those are like literally two different classes, which I think she's just also a nightmare for them to balance, where they can't really nerf her. They can't really buff her. She's really bad in some occasions. She's like the strongest character in some others. It's just a nightmare for them. I myself put her at top 5 because of what I think. She is easy to play, and literally every Valor that I talk to is like, oh yeah, we just wait for them to attack us while we are in our crosscast stand, right? Every Valor is like, it's not the most exciting gameplay, but it gets the job done, right? And the fifth spot is, I want to keep it as 4 for my top 5, because the fifth character technically doesn't exist to me, but it's obviously Bokai. Just remove it. What are you doing? Why is this character a thing? Nobody knows. It's like, I really don't get it. When I started playing this game, Bokai was a meme. If you came across a Bokai, you were thinking about leaving the party, because you were basically one man down. That's how troll it was to play Bokai. And then one day, it took them one update to make the worst class and turn it into the single best class. I still remember getting how do I say this? Out damaged like crazy by a Bokai for like twice of my damage, when I was still in the mindset of him being a Mimi class. And
yeah,
this is something that I talked about earlier, where I think we need more frequent balance updates. How is he still this strong over a year after these buffs? How can you not see that it was a tiny bit too much? Just a tiny... I'm not saying that gut him again, right? Just give him the Dahlia treatment. You overdid his buffs, just take some of it again, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Bokai gets plenty of balance though. That's something that I'm not sure about. If that's true, then on my next balance talk show, I may not place him in top 5, but I think right now, for me, he's easily making it.
That's true. The bosses have had smaller and smaller heads. So you go against the Bokai and Marjek, you're losing that battle. Okay. That whole boss is a fucking head.
It's perfectly made.
Oh,
well,
true.
There are some bosses that is perfectly made for a few characters. Go by, obviously, but also his stamina is also a thing, like you mentioned before with Lothor, and he doesn't really need stamina that much.
Okay.
I mean, do you still remember, and like you said back in the day, when you get out damaged insanely with twice your damage, and then when you recorded it and you watched it back, like what did they actually do? They were just standing on one place, randomly, and it was good enough.
That's what's triggering in me the most. I saw like 5 minutes of Bokai gameplay, and they'd be like,
that for 10 minutes long at least, like not moving enough.
If you see me or any other like Sword Arisha play our class, we have our heads all over the screen because we have to check 8 different things. We don't run out of mana, we don't run out of stamina, we still have enough seconds left on our cooldowns to make the best use out of it, and we have to think about 10 different things at the same time to deal half of their damage.
Yeah. But there's also one why Arisha wouldn't be a perfect starting character. Because you have to pay attention to so many things in your surroundings with stuff EV as well. That's why we cannot turn off the UI. I mean the UI, because some characters can play without it. If you obviously can, you just can't. You need to control. You need to see so many things. Keep track of the health bar also from other players, where other players are positioned and stuff like that.
That's like why he, again, I don't have a love-hate relationship. I literally just hate the class because I don't see why it's reasonable for a class that is as easy to play. And I expect, sorry if I'm triggering Kai players again. From what I've seen, the gameplay is like, it's pretty chill compared to other classes. Again, before I get all the Kai players triggered, I was kind of cutting you earlier, Cheesy, when you were talking about your top 5. Is there any class that we haven't mentioned in detail yet that you still want to mention why you think it's top 5 for you?
I think you pretty much hit my 4. I just say Aero because like she was up there and like it was mainly her damage. Like she just did a ridiculous amount of damage for. You didn't really have to do much. Like you just had to use your SP skills on cooldown and keep entropic rounds up whenever it was up.
Yeah.
And then as long as her only real issue was stamina, but I mean, as long as you had a stamina potion and you were managing your mana phase and gravity rounds, it's like, all right, well, don't really have to worry about it too much, and then you just do insane amounts of damage.
Okay, yeah. So do you think after the changes, she's still top 5?
Yeah, I think so. I think she's still up there.
Cool.
I mean, I guess maybe, I don't know, Belle's kind of up there too for like how little you have to do good damage with her. Like as long as you know how to use her,
the 5-stack.
What's that called? Is it deforestation? Like her counter spins? Like
just
you know how to time
stack,
those,
right,
you can actually do insane damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Belle is like really sleeper OP, where I think not enough people know about her strength because she's one of the least played characters out there.
I mean, if you look at the newer class, like from Generall, he is very strong in damage, and then you get Ira strong in damage, Lothor strong in damage, and then Belle is like a little bit behind from the newer classes. And
she's the worst out of the most recent ones,
yes,
but still, she would probably make my top 10, I guess.
Yeah, she will be in there, but even with those changes, she will not be in the top 5. She's like I could say she's the balance.
She did get buffed,
well.
yeah, true.
But yeah, also like I just like the changes also in terms of stamina. I mean, stamina is a big part of the game. But yeah, I mean, honestly, if they would give such a change to Eevee, to both Titan and stuff, to have a slightly decrease in stamina, because especially with stuff even more. I play both stuff more. You were out a bit too much for stuff. Like I don't use focus while running because it's very slow, and when it fails, then well, you just don't want to be using it. Like just dodging is even with a river ball, it's so much better. And then you're actually gonna feel how you're needing stamina. Like I would really love to see. That's the thing that I would love to see in the next patch. Like just the stamina decrease on stuff. That's something that I really want to have. Because the lightning spells should recover stamina. Like Dahlia could keep spamming because she can generate stamina. More characters have those skills. Eevee stuff has that as well, but it doesn't always work. And I'm like, well, Eevee got the most bugs out of all characters, and I don't see anything happening at all.
If your lightning passive doesn't work, you basically become Arisha, and you're just wondering where did all of your stamina go.
Like, of course, the damage change was needed, but slightly damage decrease for stuff. It's not a big deal. Like it won't bring us on top, but to keep playing your game, to playing your raid, and to avoid, I think it's for the top players. I think it's gonna help a lot.
Okay. I think we just can agree on like Bell just being the 6th in line, just quite not making the top 5, because
poor Bell.
as I think Bib said, right? Bell is like matching Aira, and Aira got nerfed, Bell got buffed. We'll have to see. I think it's just been a week since the balance updates, and I'll be honest, I haven't come across too many bells myself, because as I said, it's one of the least played characters, so I can't judge yet. Maybe in like 2 weeks she will make my top 5, but who knows. For now, however, I would actually like to move on to the next point, and it's basically the reverse one. We are moving from top 5 to worst 5. And again, whoever wants to take it first, just go ahead. Your worst 5 characters, obviously now after these balance updates.
Which did you start it before?
Yeah, I started last time.
Okay. Well, and the worst 5 is I would still Lin. I would put Lin in it.
Which one?
Well, both. I'd say Glaive a bit more. I think Blood is It's hard to say. I'm not that experienced with the character.
Yeah.
But I think Glaive is slightly, I think Blood should be stronger. So I would put the Glaive in it.
Okay. Just because it's too hard to play, is it just too much, too little damage if you execute it well?
In my opinion, it was because she's one of the hardest characters to master. Just for the timing, I can never get the timing right, so it's really hard. So yeah, in that point, she's. But yeah, also in damage, and she never come out on top.
Okay.
So she would be sure one of the worst.
Yeah.
Something everyone could agree with is, well, Kalrock. It was very, very, like, if you put a tier list, I think he would have been below on the list. I think we would last. Now, I don't know the difference between the two weapons. Like, I haven't seen many pillars, for example, and now the pillar is not on the balance list, so he should be fine, I guess, because he's not on the patch list. But if you look at how many changes the Kalrock has right now, then it probably should be really needed, because he was very, very, the worst out of all characters.
Okay.
He would be on the number 1 worst for me.
Okay.
Now Glaive above it. Well, then in my opinion, I would put Fiona, the hammer, because you've never seen one, because she was very the damage. I mean, I played Fiona as well, and I chose Sword because it was much faster. It was easier to play, easier to deal damage. You did more damage in general, and it was for many years, and that's not changed. Even with those patch changes, I I don't think there are going to be many Fionas who are like, okay, let's switch to Hammer. I don't see it happen.
Yeah.
So even with this patch included,
Okay.
because that's probably going to be the point, I think she will still be in the top 5 worst. Stuff was definitely in it. Now with this patch, she's not anymore. She is average. She's quite better now. But she would have been in it. Still, if I have to pick a top 5 right now,
2 more, right?
well, then I still have to put her in it, just because, like I said, she is balanced now in terms of damage. Like, and theoretically, she should be as strong as like Lan and Fiona, and she should be at the same level, right?
Yeah.
But she's not, and that's, well, I'm not gonna complain too much about it, because that's just about the insane amount of bugs.
They basically didn't address like the right things, right? Just buffing the damage of staff is not enough.
Damage is fine. That maybe would help, but there's just the bugs, and that will still put a knot on top.
Yeah.
So she will still be one of the worst in terms of managing, like the management and playing, feeling comfortable with her, and damage as well. So she would still be, still very bad. If all those bugs wouldn't happen, and I could mark her very well, she could still be even in the top. But from my experience, nope.
One more.
One more, yeah. That's. Oh, I have to think about it, because there are 2 characters that I would.
We can pass it over to Cheesy first if you need like a minute.
I'm choosing between the Herc Dade. And not any Arisha. I don't think she would be in it anymore. I think I would go, if you compare Arisha to Herc right now, then I would. That's gonna be Herc, with its current patch included, right? Yeah. So that would be my top 5 worst characters.
Okay.
Right
I think reasonable. Yeah. But passing on to you, Cheesy, what's your opinion?
Alright, so for mine, I'd probably say both Karox, Pillar, and Cestus. They're probably down there. I think it's mainly just like the thing that's holding them back is like bugs in their gameplay. Like their skills just not working properly. I feel like if they actually like worked properly, they'd be a lot better. So yeah, both Karox. I think Spearland is kind of like struggling because he got nerfs on his Belclair, and then they just took away stims. And like one of his main things is like being able to moon splitter, and like with newer bosses too, you can't just sit there and moon splitter to like you could with like Doulahan or something like that. Like they're constantly like teleporting around. They got all these one-hit KOs, like so like you need an absurd amount of gear on Lan in general. Like I feel like to like make full use of him. So that's kind of like annoying. Then probably Staffy I'd put, just because like most of the time, I know Staff and like the buffs made her better, but I feel like most of the time I see a Staffy, like they're just like they don't do as much damage as I feel like.
That's what I was gonna ask you just now. When we are talking about your worst 5, is it mainly damage? I think on the Karox you were mentioning how it's the buffs, the bugs holding them back. But what do you think about Staffy? For example?
I don't know. Maybe it's just like how the bosses are. I don't know. I guess when you're in like faster parties too, like when you're running with faster parties, like her having to like sit there and like charge spells while everyone else can like just wail on the boss the whole time while you're sitting there charging spells, that definitely holds you back. So I mean, that definitely kind of sucks. And then I was thinking like Silas, but like he was good, and I think these buffs are gonna knock him back down. I don't know if he's worse though.
From top 5 to bottom 5 within a patch.
Right.
Maybe Glavelin too, because like I know from what I've seen of her, I think she requires like to do most of her damage. She needs a lot of setup. Like you have to set up those like little marks that she does. Like I've only played Blute. I've only like seen other people play Glaive, but it looks like she needs like a lot of setup to do her maximum damage. and I feel like that can definitely hold a character back. Like, because there's just so many characters that can just go in and wail on a boss. I feel like a lot of characters that need setup, that definitely holds them back from being like the best characters.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing with Slave.
Mhm.
And yeah, Karok and Eevee, they are just no doubt the most bugged characters, and that's the reason why that's hold them back.
That was your
Yeah.
top 5, Cheesy, right? What was it for?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure about Silas. Like, I mean, he's good. I just can't really think of anyone like. I guess like. Yeah, I can't really think of anyone that's like worse for me, like that I've seen. Because I feel like most Silases, like you have to be really good at Silas to actually be doing.
I think
good
so. Yeah. I played him a fair bit, and I think it was really noticeable on raids where I did really good, and on raids where I maybe didn't do as good, where you actually saw a big difference. Yeah. But yeah, I think I'll just move on with my worst 5. And for the first 2 characters, I want to take a slightly different approach. I don't want to necessarily talk just about the damage they deal. I want to talk about their design, which I think both of them are just a bit flawed. And I like to hate on her. She made my top 5 on her first weapon. She's gonna make my worst 5 on the other weapon. It's Chainblade Valor. I think in the meta that we have right now, having a stationary character is just not the play. I think her overall gameplay is just made for like 6 years ago, where she's having a really tough time on low gear or on bosses that move a lot, that teleport, on redeemers that just one skip you when you get hit once. She has one of the worst survivabilities while being this semi-range class, and I really get her theme. I just think that right now in the game, she's one of the hardest ones to get going, because I think she has like this minimum required gear that she has to have in order to have any impact, while she's just busted on max gear. Let's be honest. If you compare Chainblade Valor on something like Bridget, and then put her against something like whatever raid that she can sandbag, just name one. I don't even know. Like, just imagine you have like a full party where you chain hold the boss, or like 3 hold abilities in a row. Just think of Margect. I don't know. He's not doing much nowadays, I think. He, like, Chainblade absolutely demolishes, and no character, I think, comes close to the sandbag damage of a maxed Chainblade. So you have these really strong claws, but at the same time it's really bad, and like just like it excels even more than Sword Valor. I was mentioning how Sword Valor is situational. It's even worse for Chainblades, and I think that's a major flaw which they may want to address. I don't know, like give her like an additional skill, which is like an I said it. Give her this oops button to press where she can get like some safety, or I don't know. I think she's one of the few classes in the game where I would like to see some sort of rework, some sort of not just slight damage increases, not just slight, she starts with 10 stacks now. I think there needs to be a slight rework to adjust her strength to make it a bit more balanced in all sorts of content. And the next one I want to talk about has a similar concept, where I think it's not bad all around, but I think she's highly situational. And bear with me and explain to me if I'm saying something wrong right here, but I'll actually mention Miri as one of the worst 5 characters. I don't necessarily think it's her damage that's holding her back. I think her overall design is a tiny bit flawed, where it feels like on bosses where you don't get to use your dragon at all, you seem to do like no damage. But if it's a boss where you get SP for your dragon, you use the dragon, and the boss dies on the last second of your dragon, I don't think like anybody can keep up. It's like this highly situational class where if you make perfect use of this one skill, you're unbeatable. But if you don't get to use it, if you, I don't know, imagine you transform and you get executed right away. That's like even worse than failing my resonance, I think.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Doing animation and redeemers and you're like, fuck. No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Bip said, like her dragon form, like the only thing her dragon form, it doesn't really give you more damage.
Okay.
It just it gives you more flame breath, which is what you need to chain swing. So like it really just makes it so you only have to manage 2 things instead of 3. Like without dragon form, you just have to manage, or when you're not in dragon form, you have to worry about how much flame breath you have, your stamina, and your SP. And then when you're not, when you're in dragon form, you just need to worry about really your stamina. Like, and because you're not really going to be using your SP, because you're mostly going to be chain swinging unless you can't chain swing, and then you pretty much will have enough SP for your blazing spine because it reduces the cost of your blazing spine too. So it's just like you don't really have to worry about that. So you just have to worry about fitting in parries to keep up your stamina.
Yeah, but so that like kind of just adds to why I think she might not be the best one. Where her dragon is like really strong when you can sandbag, right? Because you can basically drag, like do the fiery spin like as often as you want, while you need to parry to keep your stamina up. And yes, people will be just use stamina potions, just use VVIP potions. I would like to see characters being balanced without the use of consumable items. That's why I really dislike these stimulants being a thing, where people were like, ooh, just use a fury stimulant, and all of a sudden your character goes from really bad to almost OP, right? I think it's the same one with MIDI, where if you sandbag damage, or if you sandbag bosses, and let's be honest, most regular raids these days on gear become this like sandbag, because people with like full Astera, people with like full Militian armor, they take like double-digit numbers in damage, like nothing they ever worry about, and thus they just sandbag half of the time, I feel like. Wait, Miri's problem in sandbag is SP more than stamina. That's like out of her dragon form, right? I think inside of dragon form it's just reversed.
I feel like it's stamina more than SP, because like when you're sandbagging a boss and you can't parry, it's like you run out of stamina just spamming. Well, unless then you have to like use your blazing spine. But then I feel like I never have SP problems when I'm in well, in dragon form anyway. Not in dragon form, yeah, then you run out of SP pretty quick.
It's just something, maybe I might be a tiny bit wrong about my opinion here. I'm open to accept that. I just feel like she's missing something to make her an actually like really good class. I think she has the potential of being one. I played her myself. She's fun. She really is. It's just this one thing where I'm like, I can't quite like it as much as I would like to. And it's like the second class where I would maybe like to see some sort of mini rework. Maybe she's missing just one additional ability. For example, take Aira. She has like 3 different skills to recover stamina. Why is it that Miri can only do it when she's being attacked? Something like that, right?
But that's the same with Delia. Yeah, I mean, I think overall she's fine. And for me, she's not really a character that I would love to play. Like the feeling that she's missing something. But that's the same with, well, I also missed any form of counter for Eevee, so she can be compared in more raids. And I think Miri is doing better in it. She's more up to date to nowadays raids compared to Chain Vela and stuff Eevee. Chain Vela obviously she need more variation. I think that's something that Miri could use as well. Variation in the skill, like they need one skill to be added. And it could also say about stuff Eevee. Those 3 characters could use some changes in like adding some sort of skill. Stuff even got some skills that we never use, like clip rings or that hallucination spell. It could be used in some occasions that it is very useful. But I'm like, I've always too much skill points. I never use it. I really never use it. And so yeah, clearly that we need something, a new skill or so.
Like they did with Scythe when they added her new smash combos to like so she could fit more in to the boss.
Yeah, and I think those 3 characters could use it. Yeah.
If I continue on my list, I think I only mentioned 2. The third one is again gonna be a character that made my top 1 or top 5, and his other weapon is gonna make worst 5 because what's up with Teed? How can a class or a weapon get buffed 6 times in a row and it's still not on par? Like, something is majorly wrong with the entire class. I certainly do not think that his damage is worst 5, because people underestimate Teed for the same reason why they underestimate Karok. Nobody plays it. Like, nobody sees. I think there's like 2 people playing Teed in EU that I know. It's like, they don't exist. And that's obviously due to the reason for Greatsword being such a good character. But give the boy some love. I don't know. Like, come up with something that makes it so I won't have to mention any Karoks, neither in top nor in bottom 5. Like, you can do something next on. I don't know. Like, go figure it out. I have 2 last spots that I have such a hard time filling, I'll be honest with you. I thought about multiple ones, like both of the Lins, both of the Karoks, and both of the Lans, because all of them are in a kind of weird spot right now. I feel like Lin is cursed to be this high-skilled, you need to play her very well in order to execute her damage. And she has been, for me, in the middle area, where her damage is really good, but for how hard she is to play, it kind of evens it out, right? And with most of the bottom classes receiving actually big buffs this time around, Arisha, which was worse than Lin, got buffed to a point where I would say we can kind of tackle them now. Starvy's got buffed, Delia's got buffed, Zestus got buffed, Hammer's got buffed. Like, all of these easy call out worst 5 classes got buffed to a point where, as I said, I'm just so unsure whether to put Lin, Karok or Lan, because I'm also very inexperienced with Lan. So for me, the spears would be again a call, because I think something that you mentioned, Cheesy, right, where he's just relying so much on his stationary DPS, which is just not something that that the current meta, that the current raids are as good or as helpful with, right? The removal of stims, him getting nerfed, like, he has been taking hits left and right lately, and not all of them were direct nerfs, right? He only got nerfed directly once, but he received a direct nerf due to stims. He receives a direct nerf because all of the bosses don't really help him with his gameplay. It's like something that happened to Sword Arisha like a year ago, where all of the raids that were released were like really not favoring her at all. She was thrown under the bus when it comes to the gearing process, which is not anything that is favoring her right now. And there were so many things adding up, and I think it's kind of the same with Spearlan right now, where they might need to take a look at him. And as the 5th one, I don't know, I'll give it to both Karoks. I don't know, I'll just make one of it. It's
enough.
It is such, and I can't stress it enough, fun character to play. I've been on a grind to get all characters up to max level, just so I know all of them, just so I can help most, like basically everybody in the game with their class. I don't think I ever had this much fun leveling a character from level 1 to level 60. His unique interactions, his unique skills and passives are something that give him a lot of depth, which I really enjoy. Like his passives, for example, where I think is it pillar exclusive? I don't think. I think it was a like common one where basically he can crush bones and then he deals like additional damage, something like this. He has a lot of things which I would love to see just being an overall theme in Vindictus, which I think would give the game this little tiny bit more depth in gearing, in passive skills, in just the overall experience that would push it just over the edge of being like the best game. Like, it's already, in my opinion, one of the best games when it comes to combat, but the depth that the Karok brings to the game just blew me away, and I was really enjoying leveling him. But then I got into like the later stages and into raids, and I felt like, okay, so you have this really awesome class, but most of its things are either useless or jank, or they don't work. And
don't work right.
I was so heartbroken to see this amazing class become more and more useless with like basically every quest that I was doing. And I think that's also something this is one of the first times where I'm like, I don't know just how you fix it, but please do. I don't want to put Karok on the bottom 5 because he's such a fun character. And out of all characters that I've played, I'm pretty sure with his passive abilities and everything, he's like one of the most in-depth characters. When they created him, I'm sure that they had twice as many thoughts about his character as they did on Bell. Okay, let's be honest, 5 times. Bell is the most straightforward character we've ever had. He's like set in League of Legends, where in Season 10, you have like the most basic kit that you could ever give a champion. And that is Bell for you in Vindictus.
I'm not gonna lie, I can't not have fun playing Set, though. That champion is so fun.
I didn't want to say that easy or straightforward kit means not fun, because I played like 200 games of Set. However,
so fun.
However, he just comes from a time where they were actually trying really hard to make a good class, and I just think he aged very badly. Yeah.
But I mean, with the like in the balance patch, Valor is not in it, right? So what do you think? Is he? I mean that Pillar should be fine. I mean, if he's not in the patch, then he should be fine, right? Would you still put him over in the top 5, or he should be in it? It should be the casters, right, in it.
I feel like it's mainly
if he got a buff,
because
does he really need it? And is he stronger than Pillar now, or is Pillar behind now? Like which
Festus definitely needed it.
Pillar was most definitely the stronger weapon. And here's what I'm saying. I only played Pillar, and I already thought him to be not the most amazing class. I don't want to know how bad Zestus was before the buffs. Because
I only played Zestus and I enjoyed it way more, and it was one of the most easy classes to throw ship graveyard to farm through it. It was so easily, like, I never played it, and the first time when I had to do it, I cleared it without dying, without even needing the potions. It was so easy. And now he got really behind, and he really need the balance patch. But what about Pillar? Like, right?
Yeah, one of my guildies plays Karok. He's been playing Cestus for like ever, and he's like, the main thing it needs is just like Karok needs is like bug fixes. That's what's really holding that class back. It's like,
as I said, I was playing
right.
I was playing Pillar for some time, and I do intend of going back and finishing the leveling to 100 for Powerful, obviously. And something that I noticed while like playing him in Season 3 content, where you actually get to play the game, where you don't just stampede fries and do a drop kick and the boss is dead, where you actually have to play the character, right? Is I was getting such a hard time of just executing like the most basic things, because I wasn't quite able to point it out as being a bug because I was really inexperienced with the class, but I was certain that I was doing at least some things right. But then again, the gameplay still felt like very lackluster to a point where I'm like, did I do it wrong? And then I kept reading through like my skills for like 10 hours. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to work, but it's not working this way. And I'm like, it's just such an odd feeling playing Karok, you know? Which is basically why I'm putting it on bottom 5. As I said, most of my bottom 5 is not necessarily they are the worst damage right now, because I think pointing fingers right now at the worst 5, just in terms of damage, is really hard, since we just got the update a week ago, and they completely changed the tables on the bottom side of the DPS charts, because as I said, this balance update was mostly targeted to buff weak classes, and they did. They absolutely did. It's so hard for me to point fingers who's the worst in terms of damage. I was mostly talking about characters that, in my opinion, need like either small reworks like Valor, Chainblades, or maybe just some love in terms of quality of lives like Miri, and maybe just scratch it and build it from new, like Karok. Like something is completely wrong, and you know.
Kaden Kazi brought up X-Gun Kai earlier, and I'm like, I don't know how that class is because I never see him, and I don't know if he's just bad or because Bo is just so extremely good.
Yeah,
like,
I'm pretty sure.
No idea.
I'm pretty sure the reason for Crossgun not being such a popular class is the same why YT does not play it at all. Bo is just so obnoxious that why Crossgun if you could play Bo?
I'm not gonna lie, Crossgun looks actually more boring than Bo.
Here's my problem
like,
though.
From
what I've heard, Crossgun is just as exciting as Bo. I know Crossgun players will be like, no, he's much more fun. That's why I'm playing Crossgun even though he's worse DPS, right? I get it, but
both say the same thing.
I think both Kais have like this extremely different gameplay than every other class in the game, where they are like this super ranged if you're a bow, or this medium ranged if you're a crossgun, where you play the game completely different from like a Lether, a Valor, like any character that has some sort of block abilities, right? To a point where if you like this sort of gameplay, you just default to bow. You don't bother about crossgun. You just be like, okay, I play range. What's the best range? Bokai, easy. I think that's what, because I'll be honest with you, and I don't want to call out any Kai players, but do you remember when I mentioned this one day where they accidentally made Bokai OP?
Just woke up.
Do you know how long it took like 90% of the Kai population to change from crossgun to bow? I've never in my life seen a class where 90% of the player base, numbers are obviously not correct, but where like 90% of the player base switched the main weapon because of one single update. It's crazy. Like, for me that just tells the story of Kai players being like so obsessed or so in love with their damage that they're just willingly changing their weapon because it's now better. Again, Kai players out there, it's okay. It's okay. You do you. What do you think about adding some depth in the gameplay of classes, like making classes more Trinity, support, DPS?
I feel like that kind of like defeats the purpose of like the combat in the game, because it's supposed to be like the action combat, so it's like everyone can get in there and do some damage, and you don't have to be stuck like healing the whole time or like being a tank. Like, I know some people enjoy that type of gameplay, but I feel like that's just like that's not what this game is built around.
Here's a true story from 2.5 years ago, the day that I started playing Vindictus. I was creating my character, I was sitting in a voice comm with my friend that used to play the game before, and I was like, bro, what class do I play? Right? I have no idea about this game, you played it before, you tell me what I play. And we went through almost every class that was around at the time. And I'm a support player. I've been playing support in League for like 8 years now. I'm a Mercy main in Overwatch. The last time I played a Western MMO, I was a healer. And I wanted to support. That's just what I do, right? So I'm like, yo, what are the support classes in this game? And he's like, you know, that's kind of difficult to explain. I'm like who's healing? Like, who's doing the support things, right? And he was like, yeah, there's basically Silas and Eevee, but Eevee is a better Silas. And I was, okay, so I pick Eevee, right? So I get to heal and keep everybody alive and do the buffs and things. That was close. And and he was, yeah, it's not that easy because you have like 2 heal abilities and they're both on like a minute 30 cooldown. And I'm like, what? but why? And it's like so different, obviously. Like, it was my first action-based combat game. I only played these World of Warcraft type of games with the Holy Trinity that was mentioned. So I was shocked. I was like, why would I play a support that can't support, right? So I defaulted to Arisha, which is a DPS class if we're talking about Holy Trinity. And I didn't give it much more thought. I was just alright with the game being this way. With the game being like, everybody for themselves, if you die, it's your fault. Which I don't hate, I'll be honest. But in some cases, I would love to see a world where a Vindictus combat had the Holy Trinity. Because I think it would make the game easier in some cases, which then again, do we want this to happen? There are so many classes like Sword Arisha, Sword Fiona, where if the boss isn't attacking you directly, but you need to block the attack, and you kind of have to guess the timing where A squad, B squad equals C squad, and you have to stand in this specific position to actually get your counter off.
Nice math.
That's part of the game right now. It's, if you fail, you'd be like, this is bad, right? But if you
and then you
pull
have
it
like
off,
then you have like a Bokai or a Stappy or a
Exactly,
James
exactly.
standing halfway across the map, and you're like, oh well, guess I
I'm
gotta
like
run and chase the
fuming.
boss down.
Sword Arisha requires good positioning to get her blocks off. And I'm fuming whenever I see this Bokai gameplay I was talking about earlier, where they're like, right? From like half across the map. Okay, cool. So
That's why I like Crossgun a bit more. I played Crossgun guy for a long time. I made him even in season 2 for like a year at least. I think even longer. Yeah. I like it more just because of that reason. And if you look at it right now, both the bow as the crossgun are still, in terms of damage, above average. And I have nothing really to say or really to add about them. They are just fine as they are, and they're not OP in this or anything. They are just, in every occasion, they are just generally fine. So, but yeah, they are slightly above average in terms of damage.
Yeah.
But I still think that's okay. It's not a
I
big
see
deal.
where Safi is coming from, because there's obvious hints for this Holy Trinity in the game, where both Fiona and Karok have a taunt ability, right? Which is notorious for tank classes, the ones that get slapped around by the boss usually, right? There's obvious hints for support classes, like Eevee and Silas. There's obvious hints for DPS classes, every other class that I didn't mention so far, right? But I think the charm of the game is actually that you never know what happens. That's one of the reasons why I think games like World of Warcraft became a bit too resident sleeper for me, where I was playing a tank class, and I was playing a heal class and a DPS class. I've cycled through all 3 in the Trinity, and after some tries, I could literally just watch a movie and be like, okay, 3, 2, 1, heal. Then my deadly, like my add-on would tell me, warning, you need to move.
Yeah,
and
get
I'm
out
like,
of the way. I
Okay,
just
cool.
tried to play WoW the other day again. Like, I was like, oh, you know what? I'll try it out. There's a new expansion.
Yeah.
I'll see how it's been going with this one.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there playing. I'm like, man, this game is kind of boring, dude. I'm just sitting here. 1, 2. I'm on my hunter just playing like 1, 1, 1, 1. 2,
I
2,
think
like,
add-ons,
cool
like
down.
that's completely off topic. I think add-ons made World of Warcraft less enjoyable because everything is now so optimized, and like you have an add-on that tells you literally freaking everything.
I went back in. I downloaded the Deadly Boss mods, and I went back into that game, and I just started doing I had no idea what the bosses do. But then the boss mods is like, move out of the way, get away from people, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is so easy.
I was questioning why I was playing the game after downloading the add-on. I was like, how do you draw fun and pleasure from something like this? Remember like 15 years back when like Ragnaros was like having insane mechanics that nobody was able to like pull off, right? That wasn't because everybody was just bad back then. I mean, everybody was kind of bad, but you did not have like this add-on telling you every step.
You
But
have to run
we're
it a
getting
couple
into too
times
much
and
depth, I
learn
think,
what to
about
do.
World of Warcraft. I want to close the circle and just think, or say that I think the Holy Trinity should not be implemented in Vindy, because Holy Trinity gives you these calculated fights where you know what happens, and I think that's the beauty of Vindictus. You do not know what happens. At any given time, Baylor could turn around in the middle of his one-hit KO and be like, you. I choose you. And I love it. I don't know. you hate to see it if it's you being targeted, but I don't know. It just gives me the exciting that every battle could be the one where I fall. Yeah.
But really, to come back on topic, I have been reading the chat meanwhile, because or what you guys are talking about is not really. I don't know much about it, so I've been reading the chat, and there's someone saying quite interesting stuff that I want to point out. When I was what he tried to say there is what I agree with, Sapiria. Like he's mentioning Karok, like he can block bosses, like he can clash them. You know he has the ability, and it will happen at some point in the raid. Like it's a certainty.
You think it would?
It's just a certainty. Yeah, but you can be sure about it. And he mentioned like Eevee can freeze. Like we're a support class, and which when we freeze, people spam knives, and I'm like, well, I didn't plan it. I was hoping for it, but I can't plan it.
True.
So the people spam knives. I'm like, yeah, it's nice, but I wish I could have more control about it. Like Karok, it's certain that he can clash at some point.
Even as a non-Karok player, you know like the timings when it might happen. Yeah,
but that's why the thing that it would change for Karok, in my opinion, is they put a cooldown on the class, and in my opinion, they understand raids are quite easy now. You can finish them quite fast, so you don't really need it. But in my point, I'm like, don't put a cooldown on it. It's not something we do. It doesn't do that much damage. I mean, if they remove the cooldown, it would be fine for me.
I just think the utility of Clash is way too high to make a Karok use it multiple times. I want to give you an example.
It's not really needed, but for Eevee, it should be like we have the mastery skill. You can stack up to 2 times, and then your fire deal more damage over time, and the lightning will regenerate stamina, and the ice has the chance to freeze. When it does not,
that's pretty jank.
But it doesn't do any bonus damage, or it just for slightly more chance to freeze.
Should be like a guaranteed freeze.
What I want to do is like just change the ice and put it to a mastery. Like you need to stack up to 6 times, and when you have 6 times, you can like additional key like the tab or just an extra key when you want to use the freeze. You can do it 2 times, but you can, and each time like 3 times freeze, then 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second. But you can actually use it strategically. Like
I just want to hold you back 1 second right here, because we are actually approaching 2 hours, which is like a bit longer than I intended. But you're already mentioning something which I wanted to talk about in the last topic for today. I will actually skip there's 2. Okay, chat. I need to be honest with you. There's 2 topics left. The second to last one is, are all of the classes overall balanced now? We can skip this for obvious reasons. So we'll go back or move on to the last one. And it's basically, what would you like to see in the next balance update? Which is something that you think is necessary for the game. What is something that maybe it's just personal to you? Maybe something that you were just talking about, right? So I guess now with this new topic, you can just keep going with what you were saying, I guess. If you want to go on about it.
Yeah, I was mentioning
giving more reliant.
Like you can actually use the ice beam more strategically, like as a planet. When is the perfect time to use it? When it will, Sometimes there are some moments and some bosses that I wish it would freeze right on that moment when I see another player about using something, and I'm like, I wish it would freeze right now. It would be so useful. Like your support class, it doesn't do much damage. Ice spear are quite weak compared to fire, so it's a supportive skill. But if it relies on RNG, like on chances, like I have seen Eevee, in terms of percentage, there are EVs freezing bosses way more often than I do, even though we use ice skills as much. But so that's definitely a change that will be actually fun, because EV is already strategic kind of play. So I think that would be quite fun. It is not really a buff, but it would be actually fun and make it more interesting, definitely, for EV. And in the conversation, I mentioned 2 other characters before, with some changes that I would like to see. Like with the Chain Valley and Miri, like they need some skill added. Just same with Eevee. I have so many skill points, and I'm like, we need a new active skill that we could actually use that would help us in battle for dealing some damage, or there's just something missing. And Tony from my guild actually he thought about it as well, and he made a topic on the forum, like adding new skills and stuff. It was actually quite fun, but yeah, I do agree. Eevee is also missing something as well. But it's for me a bit harder to say anything about other characters because I do not play them anymore. I only play Eevee right now.
Oh, okay. What about you, Cheesy?
I don't really know. Like for my characters, I feel like they're kind of in an all right place. Like I could just be like, you know what, I want all my characters to do more damage because why not? But you know, but I'd say one like serious change that I'd kind of like for Miri is I talked about it before. Like one of my friends told me about this. Like instead of her, because like when she has parries, she like expends her stacks that she builds up with her chain swing, and it gives you guaranteed stamina back. And then when it hits, like the damage, it restores SP. And I kind of wish, like, if the damage doesn't connect, like you don't get the SP back. Yeah. And I wish, like, the stacks, like, because it only triggers if you have 3 or more stacks. Yeah. So I wish it would give, like, a flat amount of SP based on how many stacks you have, like, instead of, like, on the damage. Because there's, like, so many bosses that, like, will dash through you or, like, hit and then teleport away and make the damage not connect. So it's just, like, you parry and expend your stacks, but you don't get any SP, and then you're like screwed. It's just like because you need the SP to do Blazing Spine if you're out of Flame Breath to Chain Swing, and like when you can't Flame Breath and Chain Swing, then it's like you just have to do normal smashes, which are garbage. Like so,
that makes sense.
That'd probably be one change I'd like to see.
Yeah,
would be fun actually about when next month or so to look back at it. Well, we need more experience, right? Like Grimden and Karok, and I haven't seen them enough in raids to compare, like if the balance patch actually was a good thing or not. Like there's not enough experience. We need to see. It's just a week, we know. So maybe a month later, we can tell way more detailed about it.
Yeah, no, sure. On the next one, is there any class outside of the ones that you are playing, Cheesy, which you just happen to have like a special bond to, or which you would like to see succeed?
I'm not really sure. I do like my Scythe, but I think she's kind of in an alright place. I don't know if she needed to be like nerfed. They could have just like increased staff and kind of left her where she is. Like maybe she's better than staff by comparison, but I feel like she's kind of like she was in an alright place. She didn't seem like she was super OP. And then like you were saying, Teed. It'd be kind of cool to see that class around more because he looks pretty interesting, but you never see him. He, like I said, he's a shiny Pokemon. Like it's like a 1 in a million chance before you see a Teed.
I leveled my Herc to like level 60, and Chad wanted me to play Greatsword Herc for obvious reasons because everybody draws more pleasure by me seeing, or by seeing me play something that I despise instead of me playing something that I enjoy, and. It happened to me on accident that I got a new weapon and I just checked the stats and the stats were much better. I'm like, obviously I'm gonna use the weapon, right? I didn't pay attention that it was a Teed. So I played a single quest with Teed instead of Greatsword. It was around like level 45, 48, something like this. And I basically had like no idea how the weapon works. I had like no skills in my skill bar whatsoever. And I had like 5 times the fun that I had with the Greatsword that I've been playing for like 5 hours for like 3 hours by that point, right? So I can only imagine how much fun it actually is if you know what you're doing and you have access to skills on the Teed. But I'll just draw the line and or like closering, or I have no idea about English phrases. I'll just talk about my opinion real fast, where I mentioned it earlier. I think this balance update was mainly targeted towards characters that were struggling a lot. They were doing a really good job of turning, like, there's 3 tiers that I usually use. It's average, right? Which is like where you want to be, right? And then there's above average and below average. This time around, they took a lot of the below average classes and made them average at least. There's also some like Bell and other classes that for some reason got buffs, but that's fine. For the next balance update, I would like to see them targeting the other side of the spectrum. Take the above average classes and tune them down a tiny bit. Even us 3, we found 3 classes to agree on that they are slightly overtuned and maybe deserve like some minor adjustments, right? And if we just 3 random plebs on the internet see that something might be wrong, maybe Nexon, with their 200 years of balancing, maybe even 300, who knows, can also come up with something that might be wrong on the upper tiers, and maybe we'll see some nerfs to these a tiny bit too strong classes. And that's something that I would like to see, where obviously I could go on about, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Sodarisha had stamina, right? Well, I'll be honest, since the last update, I don't even care. Like, I think my class right now is in a spot where I think she belongs. Like, I certainly, if they wouldn't touch her for like another 5 years, I'd be fine. I don't think she's super bad, and I don't think she's like mega overpowered. She's in a spot where I think most characters should be. Fun to play and decent damage. And yeah, that's basically my thought on what I would like to see in the next one. And with that being said, I think, is there anything you want to add to my opinion? Just making sure.
Make every class OP. You know? Forget it.
Like,
we'll just crank up the numbers on every class.
Here's the problem. That's exactly what the developing team of Diablo 3 was doing, where they literally stated in an official statement, we do not want to nerf classes, we want to bring every class up to this pace of the currently strongest one. Ooh. Which is just a terrible way to balance stuff, in my opinion. Like, we right now, I haven't played Diablo in like 3 years, but when I last played it, there were damage amplifiers of like 40,000%.
Oh my god.
And I was like, wait, what? When I last played it was like 200%. I'm like, whoa, twice as much damage, what? And now I go back, play the game, it's like 30,000% increased damage. And I'm like, what? That adds like 8 digits to my damage, where before it was like 10 damage that I was dealing, now it's like 5 billion. I'm like, what? How does that make sense?
They are buffing the bosses though.
On Diablo, it almost made sense because you have this almost indefinitely scaling content of the Greater Rifts, which, jokes on you, they're actually hard kept to 150, so but that doesn't work on Vindictus. We don't have scaling content. We can't even run hero raids because they're not worth doing, right? What is there for us to...
I feel like if they were worth doing, like if they just had decent drops, they'd be worth doing,
yeah.
And then it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah.
But right now it's kind of like pointless unless you're trying to like fish for extra departures, like hero raids.
Yeah, but you won't do it in season 3 heroes, let's be honest. If you fish for departures, you go to like season 1 and be like, heh. Right? But
true.
Hero raids are actually something that I want to mention or talk about in greater length on my next talk show, if there's going to be one. But yeah. Alright. Again, I want to actually thank the both of you for making it today. It's actually a bit longer than we expected, but thanks for sticking with me so long. If there's anything that you want to mention about today's topic, now is your time.
Hashtag fix bug EVs.
No, it was fun.
Yeah.
I had fun.
Cool.
Buff Miri.
Buff Miri.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Anytime. I also hope that Chad had some fun. I know I wasn't quite able to react as much as I usually do during my streams. I hope that's fine with everybody. And yeah, I would really like to do these as well. I think like I had a pleasure. Like for me, it's really cool to talk about Vindictus things. And maybe, who knows? Maybe we eventually get some changes along the way. That would be cool.
Let's see next time.
Yeah. Have a great day, I guess. I'm just gonna leave you guys real fast.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.